Welcome to the summer service. This is sort of our first summer service of the Unitarian Universalists of Easton and the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River. This is going to be a Zoom service. It's going to be in what I'll call our simplest format. I am co-hosting the service today with Liz Hausburg. If you have questions, if you have any tech questions, the best place is in the chat, or you can try to track my husband down, or Dave Moore, one of the folks that's out there, Bojena, and ask the questions primarily in chat. So our service today is about play. And we're going to consider all the different ways that we take breaks in our life, maybe not all the different ways, but we're talking here not just about taking a nap or watching TV, but we're talking about those times that we intentionally make a chance for play. And I think June just invites those possibilities. It's actually the theme for the Soul Matters services this month. And as each congregation is ending its church year, we tend to operate on the traditional, almost a school schedule. Easton will have its annual meeting today, and Chester River will have its meeting next week. We are invited to go into some different mode, to break patterns, and to find places that create special ways of release, which we're going to call play today. At the end of this service, we do want to share that Chestertown folks will be invited, we'll explain this again at the end, to sign off and leave the Zoom meeting, and you have been given a link that you can go to a coffee hour for the Chestertown group right after the service is done. For the Easton folks, we so would like everybody to stay for the annual meeting. If you're a member, if you're a friend, please stay on this link. We anticipate there'll be a good 5 minutes for a bio break, for a refresh of your coffee, and then at 11 o'clock, the board and the team organizing the annual meeting has spent an incredible amount of time to make sure we do the appropriate honoring of our church year recognition. We'll hear the results of the online voting. So I invite everyone now into a time of playful worship, a time of reflection, a time that we can start imagining the next step in our journey. Today, Liz Hausburg has our chalice lighting words. Liz, could you light the chalice? And in parallel, I'm going to light a chalice here so we have something to extinguish later on.
Perfect. Today's words come from Carl Seberg. Let there be joy in our coming together this morning. Let there be truth heard in the words we speak. Let there be help and healing for our disharmony and despair. Let there be silence for the voice within us and beyond us. Let there be joy in our coming together.
So Liz and I thought we'd start today with a bit of a conversation. Liz is a public school teacher, right?
Yes.
You've got 7th graders all year.
All year.
All year. And have you had your last day of school yet?
No, it is June 8th, Tuesday.
So you are in that very final stage, and I can imagine that you are about ready for some time off. I know you and I talk frequently. You've taught classes, as have many of our teachers, virtually and in person. We've now all, as a society, or at least many of us, learned the word asynchronous days versus synchronous days. So it's been a busy year, Liz. What are the first things you are going to do with your time off? Maybe how are you going to spend those first couple of weeks or that first month?
First, I'm going to visit family. up in New York, so that's a nice trip. I haven't seen people in 2 years now. I need to paint the shed. I need to mow do some yard stuff, and I'm going to go golfing. Those are really my set plans.
So of those things, when you consider those things, at least the examples you provided us, my guess is you might be doing a few other visiting of friends and playing with your puppies and stuff. Which of those feels the most like play?
Probably golfing. Sometimes visiting family feels like play, but sometimes it feels like work. So I'm going to go with probably golfing is going to be my most play, or playing with the dogs. Those things are fun, relaxing. So when you say play though, what do you mean exactly? Like, what's your definition of play?
Well, this is an open book test. And since I had a good idea that question was coming, thank you for letting us use all our resources. I was checking about how some of my colleagues are defining play. And I looked at a sermon that was done by Reverend Sandra Fees. And in her sermon, she gives this little part of a definition. It's not necessarily the whole definition, but she says one thing is that the point of play is it's something that doesn't have a point. People who study play, she says, consistently name purposelessness as a central quality of play. It isn't something that's goal-driven, at least not exactly. I know golfers, and I know some golfers are a bit goal-driven, but there's that moment that it comes and then it goes. You do it for the sake of the activity. So one of the things I keep thinking about play is it's something about intentional distraction. Something about it's good that it takes our mind somewhere else off the day-to-day. And it usually is something, in its best sense, that brings us some fun and some joy. What does that get you thinking about play, Liz? Anything that gets you thinking about?
So it sounds like it's a time when you don't worry about time. You can just be, or you can just do. So I guess when I'm looking back, playing with a dog in the spur of the moment when the dog is ready to play or be playful, that seems like it's play. I guess when I picture golf, it's kind of play, but that can also be a little stressful. So maybe you're right there. But probably being with friends, it's really hard during COVID, and I don't know if anyone else has had this, getting time for friends, because we did have to be so careful about our time together that it wasn't as sporadic as I thought. So I guess play has been on the outs for a while for us. So maybe getting back to that time wasting or not worrying about time is probably gonna be tough for a lot of us.
So as we think about the different places that the play might go, I think whether you were a kid or adult, maybe you've played with Legos. Have you ever found yourself sort of intrigued with Legos, or you find yourself piling blocks on a table, or maybe playing cornhole? I don't know if, I know for my kids, it was new when they started bringing it home 7 or 8 years ago, but where you're tossing bean bags across a yard and just seeing if they land on the target. They often have a beverage to balance that process. And once it's done, maybe there's a few pictures that get posted on Instagram, but once that's done, it's it.
Right.
So it all sounds fine, but does that make playing cornhole a waste of time?
Now, that's an interesting question. So what is waste of time? Does it mean unstructured, or does it mean useless? What are you thinking?
I think I was thinking it was a little bit more unstructured time, and it always feels like I'm sneaking away to do it.
Yeah.
Do you think we've done much playing during COVID? How do you think we're going to look back at the 15 months? It's not even quite 15 months yet.
It's not even quite. The difficult part as a teacher is we had a lot of technology that we had to learn, and learn quickly. And so we couldn't have that wasted time, I guess, is what I would say. And things worked, things didn't work. The kids were, at first, thought it was very novel, very unique. And then they started going away. You'd see just the alphabet soup or the Brady Bunch things. And I think it was very hard for us to incorporate any kind of fun in this kind of teaching because we were all getting used to it, and they were on a screen, and I didn't care for it. I found it very hard to teach. So it went okay. And then other times you were like, wow, I think we could have done that lesson better. It was really hard to find time to do that play or that waste of time, although maybe it was time well wasted, I don't know. But it is the times we had between classes where we'd say to the kids, go ride your bike or go outside before the next class because you've got to do something besides sit in front of a screen all day. And even we were cognizant of the fact that everybody's computers during good days were outside. We were like, oh, that's what your backyard looks like. Neat. And they were much better when they had that freedom to say, ride a bike, grab your cat, go let the dog out. It's okay. Clearly go do that. We still had kids asking permission to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to know. You're home. Just go do that. So I think it was really hard because their screen time was play. Everything was around these screens. And I think that was really, really tough. Really tough for them.
I think we've blurred a lot of lines. I think you talked about kids being reinvigorated by play, but I also know, having done a lot of virtual worship services, talking to teachers, talking to nurses, talking to folks in different settings, that we've had a time where we felt like a lot of time has been wasted. We've had to learn to do new technology and then find we've spent 6 hours on something that isn't going to work. I know our tech teams in many scenarios, how do you move files around all the different places there? So I think as we think about play today, there's a poet, her name is Diane Ackerman, and she has written about deep play, really intentional play, and she really has, I think, adults in mind here. And she shares this: in rare moments of deep play, we can lay aside our sense of self, shed time's continuum, ignore pain, and sit quietly in the absolute present, watching the world's ordinary miracles. No analyzing, no explaining, no questing for logic, no worry. One is completely open to whatever drama might unfold. So Liz, I've been thinking about your time off, and I think that we maybe want to give you one of the things we sometimes do in congregations is we give charges to one another. When we give a charge, when the board gives a charge to a task force, right, or when a couple of years ago I was installed as your minister, there was a charge, some set of instructions given to us. As our coordinator of religious education, I think we need to prioritize play. Do you have a message for us as we all set out this June?
We've asked so much of one another during these times of COVID. We've had a lot of screen time, puzzle time, chances to cook, chances to read during the pandemic. But there's often this nagging reality of risks and the why of our isolation. We've kept busy. Maybe we're even playful, but it's been a serious time. Our kids included have taken it very seriously. I hope we have enough of the rejuvenating play, recentering, rebalancing us. It's a needed part of our lives. I sense we need to play more. I sense we need to know that play is important. It's restorative, it's relaxing, and it's anything but a waste of time. Play is such a learning tool for our children. I can imagine that this will matter deeply as we travel through our post-COVID lives, as we get back into that sense and we get back into the idea of play, relaxing, and enjoying things again.
Thanks, Liz. And I hope that message is heard for those of us that are around younger people, but all of us need to find that space. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that during the service. So I invite us now, we're going to have a time of reflection and meditation, and then we will have a chance to share the joys and concerns in our lives. Take that deep breath. Hold in your heart some place that in the past or in the recent past or what you're looking forward to that you might consider play. Think broadly. What takes you to that other place and keeps you really present? We're reading today from Linda Underwood. All this talk of saving souls. Souls weren't meant to save, like Sunday clothes that give out at the seams. They are made for wear. They come with lifetime guarantees. Don't save your soul, pour it out like rain on cracked, parched earth. Give your soul away or pass it like a candle flame. Sing it out or laugh it up the wind. Souls are made for hearing, breaking hearts, for puzzling dreams, remembering August flowers, forgetting hurts. These men who talk of saving souls, they have the look of bullies who blow out the candles before you sing happy birthday and want the world to be in alphabetical order. I will spend my soul playing it out like sticky string into the world so I can catch every last thing I touch. I invite us to consider the path our souls have been on, the places we've held back, places we want to live more fully, more connection, places we have felt that connection. Hold those thoughts for a minute, and we will lead that into our sharing of personal joys and sorrows. Just take that moment. Imagine those souls being worn right out. Amen and blessed be. So we're going to go off spotlight now, and I will step back, and as folks have a joy or concern to share in a sentence or two, we invite that to be shared, and we can always hear a little more in coffee hour. I will light the candles as Bill and I think John Ramsey and a couple others recognize those folks who raised their hands. And I continue to light a first candle for all the ways we've been impacted by the pandemic, the deep place it has played in our lives, and knowing that some have many fresh losses due to COVID. So I'll light that candle and then we'll recognize folks. I wish that we were together so folks could see the candles. I think you can see them there. We've gathered for this past year, and we gathered this morning to bring all of these life realities together. Just take a moment and hold what we've heard and hold the blessing that this congregation, this shared congregation from Chestertown and Easton, the work that's been done to hold this space every week, and especially the work today to be together and honor the many relationships and experiences that we have. Just take that time. For all that asked for a candle to be lit and for the many other things that remain in our hearts, we are grateful for the blessings of being together. So the author, E.B. White, he's the person who wrote Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little, offers this quote: "It's hard to know when to respond to the seductiveness of the world and when to respond to its challenge. If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If it were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I arise in the morning torn between the desire to improve the world and the desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan the day." I hear that quote and I know in my heart, I believe in play. Play is not only a time of relief and respite, but as an integral part of life. We know that children play naturally. Animals, many animals at least, play, and it's part of their development. It's a way through play that we master skills and coordination, balance, all sorts of learning of new rules, learning of even the creativity. How do you make up a game? How do you know when the game starts, the game ends? How do you call people into relationship when a kid's broken the rules? I know I'm a kid, the times I remember in the early 1960s of playing tag and Red Rover and all the games that had very specific rules. If a new kid came and they didn't know the way we played it. These were just not matters of life and death, but they're the kinds of skills you learn that may be important for life and death at some point. So as we shared earlier in our definition of play for today, we put aside something that has an explicit purpose and something that, at least for a moment, we're not thinking quite so much about ourselves, and it's a place of letting go of pressure. I believe in play, and yet there's a little voice within me that thinks of play as guilty pleasure. We know, at least I know, that there is value in escape, and so much as we intuitively learn to play and build relationship. But I sometimes think play is what I do when I'm not doing what I should be doing. The other folks have that experience. It's okay to play, but only for a little bit, because it's just a distraction. I do have that sense, Liz and I talked about it earlier, once in a while, I think I'm wasting time when I play. And I come back to E.B. White's words, "But I arise in the morning torn between the desire to improve the world and the desire to enjoy the world. And this makes it hard to plan the day." Consider how you make your lists for the day, that glance you have at the calendar, your allocation of time and energy. Will I have enough time? How will all these tasks sufficiently fit together? There are those moments, and it does happen now and then for some of us more than others, maybe, where serving the world and enjoyment are actually intertwined. It's lovely in those moments when the choice does not feel that stark. Maybe we just love the essence of tutoring a child and being with them. Maybe it's when we attend a choir rehearsal and we're just moved in the creative process and everything just feels right. As a start, pay a lot of attention to those times when service and enjoyment find a natural weave. They're not always that common, but there is that amazing period. But often the tasks in our life are pretty much the opposite of play as we've defined it. We have to get our teeth cleaned, or we have to scrub the shower, or prepare tax returns. There may be some nice satisfaction in a task well done and being completed. We can check off the box. It doesn't go on tomorrow's list, and the shower sometimes ends up sparkling. Sometimes it doesn't look quite right. But at least for today, I'm thinking that's not quite play. And maybe there's times even in the chore, it's not quite play, but in the normalcy. Maybe you have a chat with the dentist, dental hygienist, or you get your tax return in the mail. So it's not that there's not satisfaction, but it's a little bit different than that place of escape, that place of putting down. I know somewhere along the way, and I actually was thinking about it, I don't think it was when I was a child or even a young teen, but someplace I learned to take pride in long lists of productive endeavors, of doing tasks, of completing projects. I had found that if you create this sense of purpose in your life, there is just an incredible satisfaction in moving toward goals. And there's fun sometimes being on that path. You meet a lot of people, you change course, you create something, you move forward. And this sort of goal-driven life is something that I found our culture rewards a lot. I think I hear that from members, and I think having that sense of purpose is just so important. We have a sense of being rewarded as we get more education and training and meet goals. And all the studies have shown that happiness tied to meeting goals like this and purpose is really very real. And I think for folks, maybe you've made a big change, maybe retirement or someplace, and something was missing. And a lot of times people say you need, some different type of purpose. And people, whether it's in retirement, in their job, whether they're building houses or fixing cars, raising children, serving in some way that comes even with volunteer roles. There's a lot that we value on accomplishment. And while we may not discourage play, we may even define it as being healthy in a mix of life. It's good to play cornhole once a week. For adults, we do sometimes think that it was times we had the eye off the ball. You don't usually see at the end of the year when you're doing annual meetings or you're doing your own diary collection of what was accomplished that you attended 12 pub trivia nights and got a really hard question on music that nobody thought you could get. We don't put building relationships, we don't often put thank you notes and stuff on our list. So Friday night, I was talking to Bill about the sermon. I actually had it mostly written on Friday, and I told him that play was something that doesn't have a point. He immediately gets skeptical, likes to challenge the definition right away. And he was shuffling cards as we were playing 500 Rummy. We don't always make time to play games, but it's something we do pretty regularly. And I was losing, and he was feeling pretty good. I think he felt he had a lot of purpose in that game at that point. And I said, it's like playing cards tonight. This is play. He said, no, this has a purpose. And I think maybe he did want to win. He says there is purpose in our moment. And there was that purpose, that concentration on playing cards and some strategy and keeping score. But I noted that when it was done, we would put the cards away, probably turn the TV on, and we hadn't really served the world. We hadn't accomplished any errands. And he said this, but when we play cards, you and I are better after we play cards. So maybe we categorize it sometimes as guilty pleasures, but it seems we're putting that guilty label on there and we really shouldn't. There is a sense that we think it's a weakness sometimes to engage in these play opportunities, at least for adults, maybe not for kids. There's sometimes a qualifier. So I thought about it, and Liz talked about this a little bit. This past year, we've had lots and lots of time. We've played sort of, but we've had less travel. fewer calendared events, fewer erranding opportunities. What did you learn this year about play? Both the importance, the effort it takes to say, let's play cards instead of watch TV tonight. So I'm going to flip back to Liz here for a minute. Liz, do you have any thoughts on adults playing, on balance? What have you thought of? What are some of your examples of play as an adult and why they might or might not matter?
Well, it's interesting because it was tough at first, and there were the online play for a birthday party. There was a lot of companies that were making games for people online and to do like a Zoom event or for families. So I think that was the way adults would play, but it was still, you had to set aside time for it. Like you said, it was on your list. Today we're going to be doing this, or today we're going to be doing that. And it takes me back to when we were all younger. And your mom would say, go out and play. And you never asked her, what do you mean by that? You just went outside and played. And I find that fascinating now, that if you said that to a kid or you say that to an adult, let's just go out and play, I don't know if they'd know the answer to it. And that's kind of a sad thing, because we need to start looking at getting away from screens. And you're right, that balance between the list and accomplishment versus let's just not worry about anything and go play. Whether we're in the yard, maybe we're just sitting outside. Laura and I have taken to just sitting outside in these gravity chairs, literally just sitting there and talking about what the sky looks like, what the dogs are doing, something that is just, like you said, it's not going to save the world. But I do love what Bill said. We're better. We're better for it. So I think we all need to make a little time for that play or that time wasted, just to reconnect, not only with spouses and children, but just that time to reconnect and rest ourselves. So that's kind of my final take on play.
Yeah. Well, did you and your friends do any weird stuff this year for play?
Of course, we always do weird stuff, but well, we had a murder mystery that came every month. Chris Hall and Christy Floyd, we were what we called COVID. We were our COVID group, the only people we saw. And Emily did a online gaming for Todd's birthday. And I have to say, fascinating how they took it and did it with our fundraiser. So that's kind of cool too. I thought that was kind of neat. And I just think that a lot of things are coming about because of COVID in terms of what we can and cannot do. Although I will say, being outside wearing a mask, you can still kind of sort of hang with your friends, but it is tough. It's really tough to just sort of, hang out right now. But thank goodness, knock wood, we're getting all vaccinated, and hopefully we'll be doing things plain normal and things like that would be nice.
So thank you. And I love always hearing about what some of the things you and your friends have created for adult play. So play has an important place in our spiritual lives. There's a theologian named Moltmann, and another author said it this way: play is not time out from work, and it is not rest time either. It is kingdom foreshadowing. It is momentary escape into the future reality that God intended for us all. And when I've thought about that, that's sort of, theological language, but what strikes me there is it allows us to do two things. One, to be incredibly present, to know that moment, to know that part of our journey as a faith community is to bring people into that moment, whether we're lighting candles or different places. Play brings us into the moment of the next card you draw on the deck. It's just a very present forming thing, and it stimulates our imagination in that moment that we don't know, something that happens in play, whatever play is for you, from golf to games and crossword puzzles, all sorts of things you may do. There is always possibility. that is just hanging in that moment of being present. So play helps us imagine what can be. Can we see that as part of understanding a greater world? It's all related. So my hope is pretty basic, that as we transition from sort of the traditional school year, the traditional church year, that we actually give each other ideas on how can play, that we invite folks over and take the time to take the cornhole game over or dust off our game of spades. What I keep picturing here is a child begging for more time in the pool, or those days at the beach when hours fly by. I watch gardeners. For some gardeners, it's play. For others, it looks more like work, or kayakers, or musicians. Whatever creates that sense of play for you, I hope you can enjoy it, not as guilty pleasure, but as an integral and totally important part of your life. Places of escape, places of rejuvenation. And that as we say yes to play, we find enjoyment this summer, and that folds into our community, building and strengthening our ties to one another, our ties to family, our sense of self, our sense of being a grounded and complete self, enough just as we are, and a little bit better when we play. May it be so. And that is our message for today. As I said at the beginning, if folks have things that they're thinking about play, feel free to type them right into that chat in the next 10 minutes. Things that other people may not think are play, or things that this reminded you want to do. Make a little commitment to yourself. Throw it in the chat. We'll save that chat for later. Maybe we'll write an article this week on different ways that we play and that we want to hold one another accountable to play. As I said at the beginning of today, we are going to move to Chestertown's coffee hour after the closing words, and we are going to move Easton to its annual meeting. I would ask if the Easton folks do choose to step away from their screen. We're in a purposeful accomplishment mode for the next hour, playful at parts, but we're gonna make sure the annual meeting happens. That you be back at on your screen at 11. So Christina and Don and Bojana and everybody who are going to lead us this morning can take us through the annual meeting. If there's any questions on that, again, Bojana can help. And for the Chestertown folks, I'm excited your worship team has got a general plan for the summer. Next Sunday for both congregations will be Music Sunday. It will be a pre-recorded service available on YouTube that Ellen and many musicians are working on. And then on June 20th, Chestertown will have an outdoor conversation service led by Annie, and Easton is figuring out its summer plans as well. So stay tuned to your newsletters. Any other announcements from our board presidents or others that we need to know about in the next week?
I'll just announce for UUFE that we have an important gathering for Juneteenth to celebrate the importance of Juneteenth, and then also to support the Move the Monument effort in Easton. There's more information in our newsletter.
Thank you. We'll be picking a place we meet, and I know Chestertown's got some parallel activities. Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
John?
Dave, yeah, Chestertown, tomorrow night, we're doing a Zoom presentation of the issues that we're going to be dealing with in our annual meeting, which will be on the 13th following the service. But tomorrow night, we would appreciate anybody joining us to discuss the issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah. And for Chestertown, there's great videos available on each topic that you can watch on YouTube if you want some background on each of those issues. So gratitude to both congregations for all the year-end work. We have full plates and budgets. So I offer these closing words. I'm going to extinguish the chalice, but Easton folks, you're going to keep hanging on. These words are from Mary Ann Radringer. Live boldly, laugh loudly, love truly. Play as often as you can, work as smart as you are able. Share your heart as deeply as you can reach. As you awaken, may your dreams greet you by name, and may you answer yes as you walk. May all your as you walk, may all your angels gather at your shoulders, and may you confidently know that they stand with you. As you rest, may all your endeavors know commitment and peace. Go in love, go in peace. Go knowing love surrounds you wherever you may go. Thank you for being together today. And now we'll beautifully watch everybody follow all the instructions. Easton online, Chestertown to coffee and art. Take care. Have a great week, everyone.